My name is Ilarion, and welcome to my thermal expansion mineral processing spotlight. This will be my second in a couple of looks into thermal expansion, one of the coolest mods ever to hit Minecraft. So, without further blathering, let's get on with it. Thermal expansion introduces a lot of machines to the game, and a lot of them focus on making vanilla behaviors just work better, and those are the subject for another time. We're going to talk about the core mechanics that thermal expansion brings to the game. That these are the reasons why you might want to have the mod installed by itself without anything else in there. I've already talked about using their energy mechanics, and we'll use some of that energy for these machines. But first, let's talk about the pulverizer. This is the recipe. And we're going to talk about, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this pulverizer here and place it up there. Now, first thing we notice is it's got an internal buffer and it's receiving energy. It drew that energy from the energy cell, and you'll notice that no more energy is being consumed right now. All of the thermal expansion machines are pretty efficient when it comes to the amount of juice they take. They only pull energy from the Buildcraft energy net when they actually need to. And they pull it into their buffer, and they make the buffer very obvious for you to see. So it's really nice. The next thing you'll notice is that it's a really colorful UI. All of these different slots are color-coded. And on the thermal expansion machines, you can choose outputs and inputs, and you can program the sides, so you don't have to do strange things with pipe facing and stuff like that in order to make it you know, talk to the right side to automate a sequence of you know, processing something. It's smart enough to do that, and we can change, you know, the different colors, and they mean different things. So you got top, bottom, left, right, and back sides on the machines. The front is never usable for anything, and the front usually lights up or something when it's doing work, but that's the one side that you can't. So the top, the bottom, the left, the right, and the back of the machine are these different colors. And so we'll see here, this blue is the input slot, and looks like this default pulverizer will accept input from either the left or the back. And we look, and sure enough, there's blue on the left. And we can't see it in the back because there's the conduit there. But we don't want to give it input from the left, so we can just turn that off, cycle that off, and now it will not accept input from that direction. Similarly, let's go ahead and make the top the input, really. And let's just see what happens. The pulverizer does the same thing that an industrial craft macerator does by breaking ore down into dusts. And it's perfectly forge compatible. So if you have industrial craft, you can pulverize your ores and they will be compatible with IC2 stuff and any other mod that does this sort of thing and is forge compatible. Plays nice with this. So let's take some ore. Let's just take, I've got lots of mods on there here. Let's take some gold, and let's take something more interesting. Let's take some tin. Alright, so we pop this tin in here. You see, it consumes it immediately. It removes it and puts it in an internal buffer while it's working, so you can't accidentally remove the ore while it's being processed. Once it's started processing, it started processing that ore. So that's actually one really nice thing that all the thermal expansion machines do. It's kind of confusing if you're used to other machines that leave what they're working on in the input slot until they're done, but, you know, there you go. Alright, and sure enough, we got some tin dust out of it. We'll go ahead and take that. And you notice they went to this slot. This is the main output, and there's two spots in here. There's also this slot, which is a kind of a side effect. Some ores have impurities. Let's actually not use gold. Let's use let's do lead. You know what? Let's take some lead ore and pulverize that. And we'll pop that in there, and you'll see how it lights up, and it shows you even in the UI. That's kind of cute. And it's going to start producing some pulverized lead. And hopefully we will see that lead and silver occur in the same veins, so occasionally there is a small chance when you're processing lead that you'll get a little bit of silver dust out of it in the same process. I'm not seeing it. I would have expected to have by now. Bleh. Alright, well, you know what? Let's stop that. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Alright. So anyways, we have some lead dust and we have some tin dust. I'm actually going to use that lead dust later. But that tin dust... Well, actually, no. Hang on. We are going to get an impurity. We are going to do, you know, copper. Copper ore has, as one of its impurities, gold. There is a very, well, not very small, but there is a small chance that when you pulverize copper into copper dust, you will get some gold as a byproduct. And of course, now that I'm staring at it and waiting for it to happen, it's not going to. I'm going to pause for a second and just see what happens. We're going to let it just run through that whole stack real quick. Okay, alright. I'm not getting the gold output right now, but it's in there somewhere. I'm confused, and I'm not going to worry about it any further. I've actually even switched different versions of copper to send through it, and nothing. Maybe it's an issue with this current version. Not going to worry about it. But this is kind of the alternate output slot. And what you can do is when you're configuring your sides, you'll notice you've got yellow, red, and you've also got orange. And what you can do is you can set a side to orange, and that will get both the red and the yellow output. So any side effect products will also go out the orange side. Now, what do I mean by go out the side? Well, let's look at the next machine first. The powered furnace is made thusly. It's got the redstone reception coil, some copper ingots, and a machine frame. And this is the standard for all of these machines. And then there's just a little bit of this that makes them different. This has some bricks and redstone. So we'll take this powered furnace and place it. And it looks like a furnace, filled up with energy. And it's a lot simpler. It has an input and an output. And we will go ahead and, if we put some of this, let's just pop that tin in there. Tin in there, it cooks it, just like an industrial craft electric furnace or universal electricity powered furnace or whatever. They're all basically the same sort of thing, and it's fuel efficient. It's fine. But because you'll notice we have the left side here set as blue as an acceptable input, and this is set to output to the right, let's go ahead and pop a piece of gold ore in there. Watch the gold ore go, and it doesn't appear there. But this machine lit up because it sent the pulverized gold through and processed it that way. And if we had a chest or something further to process on this side, it would go out the same way. And all of the thermal expansion machines can do this sort of thing, this chain production, and that makes them really, really space efficient. There's no pipes involved. It just works. Now, they can't output directly into red power pneumatic tubing, but they can output into a red power relay, which would then send things into red power tubing, or they can output into any machine that that accepts that sort of input. They can also, of course, go into Buildcraft pipes and directly into chests and things. So those two right there are kind of the core basic, just general, hey, I want to get stuff done. You don't have to have a huge, well, actually, you can't have conduits and this sort of stuff yet. You'd have to use lower tech power storage to get to this point, because these next three machines are in the production chain for making the energy storage and conduit systems. The induction smelter is made with a bucket and some sand, and it is kind of scary looking in the user interface. It has 2 input slots, and then the same kind of outputs as the regular powered furnace, but these input slots, we'll go ahead and throw some copper dust in there. And it's not doing a blasted thing. That's because the induction smelter uses sand to sort of help along the cooking process. If we pop a piece of sand in there, see how fast that cooked? Bam. Bam. That's a whole lot faster. It's using only about 80 energy to cook that dust. You'll notice also that it's cooking 2 of those dust at a time. That's because if we stick a piece of ore in there, oh, notice it can't do that. It doesn't look like it's doing that. That's because it just kind of works that way. It uses sand and the ore to make this. Now, we also get some slag output. The sand gets turned into slag, and the slag only really has one use, and that's to be turned into rock wool, which is something that, you know, it's a cosmetic thing. But the pulverized lead we can use to also smelt into, well, let's see here. We need some, let's take some obsidian here. Whoa, hello camera. Let's take some obsidian here and pulverize some obsidian real fast. You see how long it takes to pulverize that obsidian, and it's going to try to output out to the right. And this powered furnace is like, dude, what are you talking about? Let's go ahead and break that furnace here. And now it's not popping it out because there's no machine out that side. And real quick, if I take a pipe, pop that through there, let's see if we can get, yep, sure enough, it's sending, oh, there was no room in that because I put the lead in that side. Let's go ahead and try that again. Let's pop, come on. Let's take some obsidian, pop some obsidian in the pulverizer, and let it go to town. Once it's done, it'll spit it out just to prove to you that it does work with Buildcraft pipes, and it goes into there. And once we get 2 obsidian in here, 2 obsidian plus 1 pulverized lead, only cookable in the induction smelter, produces 2 hardened glass. Hardened glass is used in thermal expansions transport pipes, in their liquiducts and in their energy conduits. And it's also used in a couple of other things. But it's a sturdy glass material. It's kind of see-through, you know. And it's got blast resistance. It's kind of like the reinforced glass that you get with industrial craft, and I use it like that in in building things that I don't want to accidentally explode on me when people look at it funny. But this is how you make the hardened glass, which is used in those other things. Next, let's talk about the magma crucible, which uses a bucket and some nether bricks. We'll pop a magma crucible up here, and it has a lot bigger energy buffer. That's 24 kilojoules. That's many pieces of coal, because an 8 piece of coal, that's, I think, what it's half a stack of coal to fill this. So you probably want to be using a more efficient energy source than coal by the time you're using the magma crucible. But the magma crucible, oh, and of course that glass is getting output there because we told it to output that direction. Let's go ahead and turn off the right side so that, let that just spin, whatever, it doesn't matter. But let's get that glass out of the way. The magma crucible melts things into liquid, and it has a capacity of 10 buckets, 10,000 millibuckets, and it can melt down a couple of things. One, it can melt down cobblestone into lava, but it does so at basically the cost of burning a bucket of lava, and because but only in vanilla machines. If you burn a bucket of lava in a magmatic thermal expansion machine, you don't get all that energy back out, so you can't use this to turn cobbles into lava into energy. You can use it, however, to melt down netherrack into lava. Let's go ahead and grab one of those real quick and pop a piece of netherrack in there. And it's going to use 8,000 energy. Now you'll notice that the energy level isn't dropping on here because it's being pulled out of the battery up there. But it turned a unit of cobble into, or of netherrack into a unit of lava, the magma crucible. The other thing that you can melt down in here that is useful for making all of the energy machines is you can melt redstone. Now you need to melt a lot of redstone to make a good amount of conduit, but you know, it's what it is. So I'm going to turn off the output to the right first. We're going to leave that there for a second, and leave that lava in that crucible. The next machine is the liquid transposer. This is quite probably my favorite machine in all of thermal expansion. The liquid transposer, it's made with a bucket and some glass, is for filling and unfilling containers. Namely, it fills and unfills containers that can't normally be filled. So let's say you have bottles of creosote. We're going to turn the left off as well. No problem. Pop some creosote in there, and look, it can empty the creosote and give you your glass bottles back, and it fills those into that internal buffer. And this is switch basically in and out, filling and unfilling mode. It switches which way this goes. So we'll pop those glass bottles back up in there, and look, it'll take the liquid out of there and back into the bottles. And you can do this with any any of those machines. So any of the fuel, lava, seed oil, honey, fruit juice, biomass, any of that stuff works in this transposer. Or, of course, water, if for whatever reason you were making cans of water for some kind of crafting recipe. But let's go ahead and take that magma crucible, tell it to output to the right, and let's tell this to input to the left. And sure enough, that molten magma was completely dumped over into the transposer. So you can use this to can and uncan your lava without destroying the containers, because you can also output the liquid directly from the transposer by setting your outputs correctly. See, if we're doing it out, now I just need to make, let's see, up looks like it's a thing. So let's get a tank. Let's go ahead and get, this is the thermal expansion tank. Go ahead and pop that thermal expansion tank up there. Oh, sure enough, it spat the one bucket of lava up into it. And there we go. If this was, if we were using pipes or whatever, if we were sending this into, a geothermal engine or whatever, it would do it. And we could have used also, just to show here, we'll go ahead and take a couple of cans of lava, pop those suckers in there, and it's sending it up into the, the yellow side, the top. Now the one problem, of course, with this sort of thing is you have all these cans you have to deal with, and it becomes interesting. And now, because it doesn't have anywhere to go, it's still going into the internal buffer. But this lets you use cans to transport lava or biofuel or oil or whatever it is without destroying all of that tin in the process, and I really, really love that. I think that's a great idea. One other thing the transposer is used for, let's go ahead and get rid of that. One other thing the liquid transposer is used for Let's get those back into there. Now it does use some energy in the process, but it's a really small amount of energy and one full buffer. Here, watch, I'll break this so it's not getting power anymore. You can see it draining power slowly. It can do quite a bit of work without emptying its buffer completely. So you can get quite a bit. Let's get that empty again. And I mentioned that we can melt redstone. And so we're sending some molten redstone over into this here. Hang on. Is it sending it across? It's buffering. Oh, it has to send it. It has to get up to a full... Hang on. There we go. I have to have an input on that side, not an output. Okay, so there we go. The liquid redstone, you see 1 unit of redstone only makes 25 millibuckets. So it takes a lot of redstone. And you see it is coming across. Well, we can use that transposer to fill the machines that make the conduits. And we'll go into that another time. But just to show you, an empty conduit, when you craft these suckers, they don't have anything in them, and I can't place it in the world like I can a regular conduit. I have to actually pop it in here, and then have the transposer fill it to turn it into a regular conduit, and then it works just fine. So, there you have it. The thermal expansion mineral processing machines, they're really awesome, and they take up very little space because of the direct talking to each other, and you can do some crazy machines and cascading, and you can use hoppers and mix and match other mods and do all kinds of interesting stuff with it. Just real quick before we go, I'll also mention the recipes for those common components. This is the machine frame. Every single one of those machines has one of these at the center, and it uses some gold and some iron and some glass. So it's not that expensive, but it does require that you have gold, for every one of those machines. And each of them also uses these redstone reception coils. Now, there are 3 different kinds of coils in thermal expansion. The reception coils are for these kind of machines. There are also the transmission and conductance coils, and those use either tin or electrum. Otherwise, they're the same thing, and those are for different sorts of machines, like this one here. I believe the recipe for the energy cell uses a transmission, or yeah, I think it's a transmission coil. Anyways, there we have it. Thank you for watching. My name's Alarian. Bye-bye.